Confess, and you may receive a quick death. Deny, and you must be purified by pain. Do you confess?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 of the most brutal over-the-top deaths in history.
This is the dagger that Prince Yusupov used to murder Rasputin.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most unbelievable and exaggerated deaths throughout human history, whether the demises are confirmed or not. Which of these do you find the most horrific? Let us know in the comments below. Julius Caesar. Serving as the dictator of Rome between 49 and 44 BC, Julius Caesar went out in dramatic fashion. Caesar's senators feared that he was growing too tyrannical and was no longer fit to lead the Roman Republic.
You were going to consider revoking my brother's exile.
I'm still considering it.
As a result, they committed what they saw as tyrannicide and killed Caesar in the Curia of Pompey. On March 15, 44 BC, Caesar was stabbed a total of 23 times, and the resulting autopsy theorized that he had died from severe blood loss.
What are you waiting for? No! No!
Despite the numerous stabbings, it's believed that only one of the wounds proved fatal. Caesar's wildly dramatic death was turned into the subject of theater and immortalized in Shakespeare's famous play. Giles Corey.
Are you protecting Satan? Confess, you did see attacking spirits!
No! I only thought I saw them, but I did not!
In the late 1600s, hundreds of people in colonial Massachusetts were accused of witchcraft, and many were killed.
I am no witch! You'll burn in hell!
A farmer named Giles Corey had it pretty darn bad. Corey was accused of witchcraft, but refused to enter a plea. When this happened, the accused would be subjected to a form of torture called peine forte dure. Corey was laid on the ground and large rocks were placed on top of him. The hope was that the increasing weight would cause so much pain that Corey would eventually cave and enter a plea.
What say you, Corey? More. Wait.
Lay on.
But Corey remained silent, and the accumulative weight slowly but surely crushed him to death. The Brazen Bull.
They're in the bull!
Modern historians aren't sure if the Brazen Bull really existed, but it is extensively referenced by an ancient Greek historian named Diodorus Siculus. Siculus wrote about the Brazen Bull in his famous work Bibliotheca Historica. Back in the 500s BC, the city of Acragas, Sicily, was ruled by the tyrant Phalaris. As the story goes, a man named Perilos made the Brazen Bull for Phalaris as a new method of execution. A condemned criminal would climb inside the hollow bronze bull, and a fire would be lit directly underneath it. The interior of the bull would then gradually increase in temperature, and the criminal inside was slowly roasted to death. Their screams would then be heard as bull sounds from the outside. David Douglas. A famous botanist from the 19th century, David Douglas is the namesake for the Douglas fir tree of western North America. After traversing the Pacific Northwest, Douglas made his way to Hawaii, and it was here that he would die. Douglas was climbing a dormant volcano called Mauna Kea when he fell into a trapping pit meant for wild cattle. While inside the pit, Douglas was mauled and trampled to death by a wild bull. Not a great way to go. However, suspicion also fell on a local hunter named Edward Gurney. Gurney was the last person to see Douglas alive, money was missing from Douglas's body after it was recovered, and it was Gurney's pit into which Douglas supposedly fell. St. Lawrence. A Christian martyr, St. Lawrence was a Roman deacon under Pope Sixtus II, who served for just 1 year between 257 and 258 AD. The Roman Emperor Valerian persecuted Christians and ordered the execution of its leaders. As a result, many prominent Christians were killed in August of 258, including Pope Sixtus II and St. Lawrence. Legend has it that Lawrence was placed on a gridiron over some coals and essentially cooked to death. As a result, he's now the patron saint of chefs.
I should be salted and grilled with a sprinkle of sage.
This account was recorded by a poet named Prudentius and St. Ambrose of Milan. However, some modern historians contest this story, arguing instead that Lawrence was decapitated like Pope Sixtus II. William Wallace.
William Wallace?
Can't be. Not tall enough.
Born in 1270, William Wallace has become immortalized in pop culture thanks to Mel Gibson and his seminal film Braveheart. After fighting for Scottish independence, Wallace was named Guardian of Scotland and eventually convicted of high treason by King Edward I of England.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Wallace was sentenced to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. We won't get into the specifics, but suffice to say, quartered is exactly what it sounds like. Following the incredibly graphic and painful execution, Wallace, or what was left of him, was made an example of atop London Bridge. Things were done very, very differently back then. Gheorghe Doja. Medieval Europe was filled with revolts and uprisings, and Gheorghe Doja of Transylvania led one of them. In the early 1500s, Doja led a peasants' rebellion against the nobility of the Kingdom of Hungary. He and his soldiers fought well, but they didn't stand a chance against the kingdom's massive army. Doja was eventually captured, and his execution was crafted to mock his ambitions. Doja was placed on a scalding iron throne and forced to wear a smoldering crown.
A crown for a king.
He was then made to witness the execution of his own brother, and while Doja was still alive, his body, shall we say, provided sustenance for other prisoners of war. That must have made for one hellish sight.
I'll have fries with that.
Hisashi Ouchi. Radiation sickness is an extraordinarily painful way to go. And while most people remember disasters like Chernobyl and Fukushima, the worst nuclear-related death started in the Japanese village of Tokai on September 30th, 1999. Technician Hisashi Ouchi was blasted with an enormous amount of radiation. Following the accident, Ouchi immediately felt sick and grew disoriented. While at the hospital, it was discovered that the incident had essentially destroyed Ouchi's immune system and that it was only a matter of time before he died. But his family insisted that the doctors do everything they could, so they kept Ouchi alive for months, despite his body literally withering away. After numerous resuscitations, Ouchi finally died of a massive heart attack. Grigori Rasputin.
Rasputin!
Rasputin!
This man has a reputation for being incredibly hard to kill. A reputation that is buoyed by the likes of the animated Anastasia movie and that super catchy Boney M song. Rasputin was a supposed mystical healer who found himself in the social circles of Russian nobility. Accounts of his last stand are exaggerated, but yes, he certainly did experience a prolonged and painful death.
Time to dance on your graves.
First, he ate cake and drank wine that had been laced with cyanide. Nothing happened. Conspirators dropping pretenses, he was then shot in the chest. He collapsed, but ultimately survived. It took 2 more shots, including one to the head, to finally put Rasputin down for good. His body was subsequently dumped into the Malayanevka River in St. Petersburg.
You said yourself I hit him in the head. Fucking Rasputin, this guy.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Balthazar Gerard. In March of 1580, King Philip II of Spain offered a sizable reward for the head of William of Orange. William was the leader of the Dutch revolt against Spain and one of the main instigators of the 80 Years' War. This bounty was answered by a man named Balthazar Gerard, who killed William on July 10, 1584. In response, Gerard was tortured and executed. The methods of torture were extraordinarily harsh, even for the time. The ordeal is way too graphic to be conveyed, but it consists of 300-pound weights, fire, branding, flaying, and sharp nails. Gerard was finally put out of his misery in the market square on July 14th, having suffered what is probably the worst death in human history.